ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् अहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामज्जतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. In this Friday Atma Vichara session, Satsang from Ramana Center of Learning, Bengaluru, we usually meditate on Bhagavan's Upadesham, which we read it out from the book Ramana Answers, Self-Enquiry, 1900 to 1950, a compilation of all the answers, question and answers, put to Bhagavan on the subject matter of Atma Vichara. And this wonderful compilation has been done by our founder, President, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. After reading this week's question and answer and meditating on it by Master's grace, then we will have a 20 minutes Atma Vichara session. Following that, our President, Sarada Akka, would be talking about Atma Vichara as it has been contemplated in the book Ramana Gita, which is a compilation by Ganapati Muni on the same question and answers put to Bhagavan by devotees of Ganapati Muni and others. And it has been put to book form as Ramana Gita in Sanskrit by Ganapati Muni. Then finally, we will have the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. In the question and answer session that we are looking at from the book Self-Enquiry, we have reached the section where the questions were put to Bhagavan between 1936 to 1950, of which we are on the 86th question. The devotee asks Bhagavan, it is said that Hatha Yoga is a necessary aid for self-enquiry. It is said that Hatha Yoga is a necessary aid for self-enquiry. Hatha Yoga is the normal yoga that we call today, the yoga practice that people do, which is nothing but the Hatha Yoga. The question is, it is said that Hatha Yoga is a good aid, a necessary aid for self-enquiry. Let us look at Bhagavan's answer. The Hatha Yogis claim to keep the body fit so that the enquiry may be effected without obstacles. They also say that life must be prolonged so that the enquiry may be carried to a successful end. Furthermore, there are those who use some medicines with that end in view. Their favorite example is the screen must be perfect before the painting is begun. Yes, but which is the screen and which the painting? This question, yes, but which is the screen and which the painting, is being highlighted by Sri A.R. Natarajanji. This is a most essential inquiry. According to them, the body is the screen and the inquiry into the self is the painting. According to them, the body is the screen and the inquiry into the self is the painting. But is not the body itself a picture on the screen, the self? Bhagavan asks this question. But is not the body itself a picture on the screen, the self? So here, Bhagavan is being put a question by a devotee on the importance of keeping the body strong and healthy, fit, for two counts. One count is, which Bhagavan says, which may be a belief, which somebody wants to pursue this approach. On one count, that it will help in the aid of the inquiry, so that it may not affect through obstacles. If I cannot have a strong body, I cannot sit for a long session of vichara and things like that. Therefore, to keep the body, by keeping the body healthy and fit, it can help the inquiry to be continued without obstacles. And the second count is, if the body is kept healthy and because of it, if it can be prolonged, the death can be prolonged, then the inquiry may be carried out to the full result, the final result that we are supposed to get. We can ensure that it happens in this life itself. And these are the two reasons Bhagavan says that people try to adopt Hatha Yoga. And some may also adopt other things like taking the medicines and everything. Even actually, I had been for a week of treatment because I had a back pain, and it is such a wonderful master is putting this question that some may take some medicines with that end in view, with the same view, so that the inquiry can go on without obstacles, and then the body can be prolonged so that the inquiry can reach the successful end. But all of this is like Bhagavan says, somebody is ensuring the painting can be done well if the screen is kept perfect. So they feel that this body, which is the screen on which they are now going to inquire and come up with a painting. So if this screen is perfect, they can do a wonderful painting. It seems like that is the approach people are taking. But Bhagavan asks, which is the true screen, which is the true painting? This is the inquiry that we have to put. The reason why we need to put this inquiry or dwell into it is, we feel that the self is not something that we are today. We are still this individual and with this name and form, and self is within this body. And there is something that I need to do. And therefore, by doing it, the self which is within this body will one day stand revealed. And that is the aim or the final goal of our sadhana. This is the approach we take. It is like reading any book, understanding it, and then finally claiming that I know this knowledge. So we feel that since the whole of our journey in the world has been like that, we think the inner journey is also going to be that a better understanding of the inner thing on the self, and a clear vision of that self. That clarity is what will come about by our sadhana, by our doing. Now, this is exactly what all the spiritual sages and Bhagavan including, and all the books on spiritualism says that is the falsity. It is saying you are the self, you are not the body, you are already the self, we are already the self. But we don't have faith in that words. We have more faith in our sadhana, more faith that we are this individual who can put some effort and also triumph one day in recognizing what is the self. Now that is the approach we take. We don't have faith in the Guru's word where he says everything is the self. You are the self already. We don't have much faith in that word. This is very important for us to recognize, because we may be then doing the sadhana on the wrong side of things. That is why Bhagavan says, which is the screen, which is the painting. We have taken the body to be the screen and we are trying to align it, make it perfect so that we can do the sadhana and bring out the painting of the self. But to whom does this body, these thoughts, this sadhana, these ideas, this concept, what is that entity through which we recognize all of this? We never question. We take that entity to be granted. We take the self is within the body. We don't understand that everything, including the mind, the intellect, the body, the world, all rises and sets in the self. In fact, it is all inside the self. It is self alone which is there, which is the substratum, and therefore self alone is. Now, where is the whole sadhana is to recognize this truth which is being said by a Sadguru, which is being said by the books. But we have less faith in it. We have more faith in understanding that we are this body, this individual, who can, by reading, by understanding, by doing something, one day will realize the self. Bhagavan goes on to say again and again, mind is a wonderful Shakti that rises from the self. And as soon as the mind rises, the world, the body, all rises in it. He gives the beautiful example of us in deep sleep where there was no mind, and therefore there was no such issues of sadhana, no such questions of realizing, no such things of getting rid or stopping a mind or getting over this body, finding something. None was there when the mind was totally absent in the deep sleep. And he reveals again that whenever the mind rises, whether it is in dream or in the waking, then all these false ideas, including I am the self is within this body, and the body is in this world, the world is separate, the body is separate, I am the one, I am this body, and I have to realize the self, therefore self is separate. All these divisions start as soon as the mind rises, and Bhagavan says, such a mind, such a mysterious mind, rises from the self. And he doesn't say that it is the Shakti of the self, he says. So what we have to understand, it is that all of this world is nothing but the Shakti of the self, and it is constantly changing, but there is something which never undergoes this change, which is the substratum which Bhagavan reveals in the deep sleep, that when there was no mind, we were perfectly that. And in there was total peace. In there was no doubts. In there was no sadhana. In there, the truth was stood revealed automatically. So he calls all of us. The sadhana here, he says, is only to get rid of the thoughts which rise in the mind and create the divisions. The sadhana is not to realize the self. He says the self is the screen on which all these thoughts, this body, and all this drama is happening. The self is the screen. And on that screen, we have many kinds of thoughts which come and go. And they are all coming and going. But we are not paying any attention to the screen, the self, which reveals, which is on which all these thoughts, the body, the world, everything appears and disappears. Therefore, the screen is all that we are seeing. We are not seeing anything else other than the screen. And without the screen, the picture can't happen. So he is asking us to inquire, why are we taking the body to be the screen and trying to arrange the body in such a way by medicines or by Hatha Yoga to create a wonderful painting. So it is like we are given a lot more importance to the process and to the final out and to the instrument than to the final goal we need to achieve. In a way we can say, if we take a gold and we cannot consider gold as gold until it is made as an ornament. We are saying until this gold is made as an ornament, and then only we can recognize this as a gold. But that is our perspective. He is asking us to question that perspective. If that same gold was kept with all the other gold ornaments in our cupboard, and if a thief breaks in, will he look at it as, okay, whatever has been transformed into gold, that alone is real gold, and whatever is not transformed, which is the hard gold, which was just like a biscuit, would he say, oh, this is not gold, and leave it behind? For him, everything is a gold, whether whatever shape it was. So here Bhagavan is asking us, why do we consider the body to be so important? Why do we consider the body to be the screen, and therefore the process made through this body, which is the sadhana, to be more important, as opposed to the light, the self, which reveals the body, which reveals the sadhana, which is always there, whether there is sadhana or no sadhana, whether there is body or no body, as in deep sleep. Why not recognize that the truth alone is, and truth is not something that we need to get through any effort. Truth is always there. All the effort that we need to do is remove all the obstructions that come about in the form of thoughts and tries to hide that natural truth, that enduring truth, that we are the self, that thought which makes us feel we are an individual, that thought which makes us feel we are a sadhaka, that thought which makes us do something is to be inquired into, not the other way around, says Bhagavan. That is what Atma Vichara does. He has put this whole thing into a package. Whenever thoughts rise which create divisions, he, knowing that there is absolutely no division, knowing very beautifully and saying that it is only the self, he asks us to inquire, to whom is this thought? Who am I? And by inquiring to whom is this thought, who am I, he brings the attention which was rushing outward towards thoughts and division, back to that substratum, that enduring truth, that we are the self, that we are that pure being consciousness, unalloyed by whatever amount of thoughts that has happened for innumerable number of days or time. We are that self here and now. And the sadhana is only to let go the thought which creates the division, but not to get back to the self. We are the self. Self alone is. This is what Atma Vichara does, and hence it is not only a path, it is also the revelation of the final goal. So, Atma Vichara here and now makes us realize that we are the self, makes us establish that in that truth, and let go all that things which creates divisions and confusions and makes us get bewildered. With the immense grace of Bhagavan, with which alone we have come to this most direct path. For the next 20 minutes, no matter how many thoughts rise, whether it is good, bad, ugly, or even spiritual, all of them are only thoughts creating a division called I and the thought. By inquiring to whom is this thought, we come to that, the first and the foremost division called I, because the answer to whom is this thought will reveal it is for me. And therefore, by further inquiring, who am I? What do I really refer to as I? Or where from this I thought rises within me? And we turn the attention to the source of the I. There we realize that we are the self. And by repeatedly returning back to that substratum, that enduring truth, Bhagavan assures that the mind will gain enough strength to now stay put in its original form, which is free of all thoughts. And with the immense grace of Bhagavan, for the next 20 minutes, let us practice Atma Vichara. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. Over to Sarada Akka.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to the Self, manifest as Ramana, the Self that shines in all beings, and manifest as Ramana out of its immense grace as coming to our lives and is exposing to us the direct path of self-enquiry and revealing the beauty of that path also by allowing the practice of that path. In this section of the Satsang, we are meditating on the verses of Ramana Gita. We are on the 9th chapter of Ramana Gita, and in the 9th chapter we are on verse 17, 16, 17. We are on those verses. So we were talking about, Bhagavan has talked about what is Granthi Veda, that is the cutting of the knot. And he says it is the dissolution of the link between the body and the Atma. That is only called the knot. So cutting that knot. And how then he explained to us, how does this mysterious link, how does it function? How does it born in the first place? How does it arise in the first place? And how does it function? And how is one to cut the knot? How is one to dissolve the knot or cut the knot? So Bhagavan said that from the self, the consciousness rises and goes to the Sahasrara, from where it spreads throughout the body through what are called nadis. And then one becomes aware of the body, and one sees the body as the very source of consciousness. And this is actually what the knot is about. So Bhagavan is indicating, he has also said specifically that when the attention, when the mind is withdrawn from all other nadis and it sticks to the Amrita Nadi, the main nadi from which the consciousness arose, then what happens is, this can happen through self-inquiry, and when it happens, then a churning of the nadis takes place and this knot is dissolved. It's what Bhagavan says, Vichara yeche dekagro nadinam mathanam bhavet. Nadinam mathanam neva atma tabhya pritakrataha. The self gets separated. Now it is mixed up. The self is mixed up through the nadis with all the aspects of the body. Which is the body? Bhagavan says that all the 5 koshas are the body. So the self or the feeling of self is mixed up with body, with indriyas, with prana, and with the manas. So Bhagavan says that when the question who am I is asked, when self-inquiry is practiced, vichara yeche dekagro, by the one-pointed pursuit of self-inquiry, a churning begins. A questioning begins. Am I this? Am I this? No, I am not this. So like this, the churning happens and attention moves away from all the other nadis or the other channels which are externalized, and it remains with the Amrita Nadi. Kevalam Amritam Nadi Ashritya Prajwalishyati. It shines as the self alone. Then what happens? Ke Atmanadyam yadabhati Chaitanya Jyotirujvalam Kevalayam tadananyat Atmanas samprabhasate. It shines only as the self. There is no other in it. There is no duality. There is no division. Sannidhyat bhasamanam va na prithak pratitishthati janati spashtam atmanam sadehamiva pamaraha. These are the verses we were meditating on last time. So Bhagavan says, when the attention turns back to the self and remains in the self, then even if objects are perceived because they are nearby, when the Jnani also sees the world, the Jnani also knows the body. In Ulladinarpadu and Saddarshanam it is said, Dehatma bhave jado samano ekasya dehe hridi deepta atma akramya deham cha jagat cha purnaha parasya meyam tanumatramatma. For the Ajnani, the body alone is the self. But for the Jnani, the body is also the self. But it is the self which is akramya deham cha jagat cha purnaha. It envelops the body and the entire universe, the self, and that shines as the self, says Bhagavan. So here Bhagavan says, for such a one, the objects, that is the sense experiences or the thoughts, may be perceived because of their proximity. When they arise, when a Jnani sees, or when a Jnani response is evoked and it comes out in the form of a thought. As Bhagavan says, when conversing, I will have thoughts. When doing some activities, I will have thoughts. Not otherwise. So when the activity arouses a response in the form of a thought, when a person's proximity or a sense experience arouses the response, even then, Bhagavan says, na prithak pratitishthati. So, does not stay away from the self. It is not experienced as something apart from the self. And how does the Jnani know this self? Janati spashtam atmanam. He knows the self very clearly. Sadekamiva pamaraha. As clearly as the common man, pamaraha, the ajnani, is able to perceive or know the body. This body is I. The way one is able to say this with such naturalness, the jnani sees that the self alone is there. Now, in this, when Bhagavan is saying, this is the state of the Jnani. What is the state of the Jnani? Sannidhyat bhasamanam va na prithak pratitishthati. Whenever any experience arises, he does not see it as apart from himself. So, Bhagavan says that through self-enquiry, there should be a questioning or a churning. So, when objective experiences arise, instead of pursuing them, Bhagavan says, instead of pursuing the thought, one should pull back the attention. In the case of the sadhana, in the case of the jnani, there is no separation at all. But for us, we realize, oh, I see something as apart from me. But in truth, is this apart from me? Why do I see this as apart from me? Because I am taking the body to be my self. I am taking the body to be the reality. So let me question this and get back. I need not pursue any experience which is apart from me. I need not substantiate any experience which is apart from me. Bhagavan says, even as a thought arises, nip it in its bud, cut it at its source. So when a thought arises, say a thought arises about sense experiences. For us, in daily life, we will find that whenever we see something, if it is a new object, like even if it is not new, maybe if you are sitting in a room for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, we are not registering what we see in that room once we have come into that room. Once we come into at the moment of coming into the room, we will register, oh, I have come into this room. We will automatically, if it's a familiar room, we will label it as my office room, my bedroom, my kitchen, my car. So I have got into my car, I have got into this space. If it's a new room, if it's a new space, the mind will take in whatever it sees and says, it tells me, oh, I am here in this space. So what can we do at that point of time? We can question that. We can question what my eyes are telling me, saying that I am seeing this, I have come to a new space, and all this is there. So Bhagavan tells Humphreys, he says, do not pay attention to any of the phenomena which you see. Because if we observe our mind, we will realize that it's very much of the time, most of the time during the day, it is giving a running commentary. It has two things which it does normally. It just keeps giving a running commentary. Now I'm seeing this, now I'm hearing this, now I'm tasting this, now I'm touching this, etc. That's one thing which it keeps on doing. It keeps giving a running commentary of sense experiences. Another thing it does is it also gives an emotional content to that sense experience and says, I like this, I don't like this is good, this is bad. Why? Then further it says, why should this have happened or why should this not have happened? And it gives an emotional or psychological content to the experience. Some of the teachers, they say that you cut off the psychological content of the experience. If you see a tree, you say, okay, I am seeing a tree. Now you may say, I am seeing a tamarind tree or a mango tree, but you don't say, oh, this is a tamarind tree. If you stand under a tamarind tree, then it's not very good for health. And if you stand under a neem tree, it is good for health. And now I am standing under a tamarind tree. I do not know what will happen to me. I do not know whether my health will be affected adversely. So some teachers say you cut off all that. Just say, okay, this is a tree, this is a tamarind tree, and I am standing under a tamarind tree, full stop. Don't proceed further. But Bhagavan is not saying that. He say, don't even say, I am standing under the tamarind tree. Because there is a tree and there is I and there is this dichotomy. Though the tree is perceived, ask yourself, is this perception of a tree apart from me is based on the thought that I am this body. But who am I actually? Is this something apart from me? Is the world apart from me? If I am the body, then everything is apart from me. But who am I actually? So we can also apply for the jnani, what is natural in sadhana, that becomes an applied practice. So when Bhagavan is saying that sannidhyad bhasamanam va na pratitishthati, it is, so he says, don't look at it as a part, meaning to say, don't, if one does not pay attention to it, one is not looking at it as a part or as oneself. There is no division. The moment one has stopped paying attention to a phenomenon, there is no division at all. That division is ceased. So Bhagavan says to Humphreys, do not pay attention to the varied phenomena. Let anything happen. Tell yourself, strange things happen in this world. He says, he actually tells Humphreys, strange things happen in this world, let them happen. And you don't allow your attention to go there. Don't keep your attention on the phenomena. Don't even keep your attention on the act of seeing, which means don't even remain as the watcher. oh, these things are happening, these things are happening, these things are happening. I am untouched by it. One is to be touched by it, one is to remain untouched by it. But even to remain untouched, one has to see it. If one has to be a witness, one has to see it as apart from oneself. I am the witness to it, so it is apart from me. So Bhagavan says, not even on the act of seeing, but on that which sees. So when one turns one's attention back to the self, then Bhagavan says, Janati spashtam atmanam. Then the I will gradually become very, very, very clear. And what will it do? Bhagavan had said, Atmaiva bhasate yasya bahirantascha sarvataha pamarasyeva rupadi sabhinna granthiruchyate. When the self shines everywhere, when one begins to experience the self within, then it just explodes and includes everything, says Bhagavan. Nadi bandho bhimanascha dvayam granthi rudiyate nadi bandhena sukshmopi sulam sarvam prapashyati. The attachment to the nadis, says Bhagavan, is twofold. One is Thulam and one is Sukshma. One is with the physical body and one is with the mental body. The mental body perceives the physical experiences through the nadis. But pulling nivrittam sarva nadibhyo. So one has to cut off not only from physical experiences, one has to cut off from the mental bondage. And therefore Bhagavan takes us directly there by the self-enquiry, who am I? When one cuts at that mental bondage to who am I, automatically all the bondages will be cut. Nivrittam sarva nadibhyo yedaikam nadikam shritam भिन्न ग्रंथि जता भिन्न ग्रंथि तदा ज्योतिर आत्म भावाय कल्पते. When it all the knots are cut, the mental one, by the cutting of the mental knot, when all the knots are cut, when all the movement through all the nadis, whether the nadis which are going to the sense organs, the nadis which are going to the prana, and the nadis which are manifesting as thoughts, the mental, the Sahasrara itself, from the body to the Sahasrara, back to the heart, when one abides there, then one is called Bhinna Granthi, one who has cut the knot, and one shines only as the self, says Bhagavan. By his grace, when he gives us the path, he is also ensuring that the path is open to us for practice, and his grace is available to us in the practice of the path. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Apara Satchit Sukhavariraše Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chintavihinam Hrudi Chintayami Chintavihinam Hrudi Chintayami.
Namo Ramana, Namo Ramana Dileep.